Hi guys, and welcome to this video for Year 12 Business Management Unit 4 Outcome 1, where we identify needs for change. And we are on our final key knowledge point, which is all about something called Porter's generic strategies. In this video, I hope that you get an understanding of what Porter's generic strategies are, and in particular understand that there is two key approaches, lower cost and differentiation, that a business can take proactively to achieve a competitive advantage. And we're going to need to understand what we mean by lower cost or differentiation and what this means as strategies in terms of advantages and disadvantages. Let's do a quick recall all the way back to our second key knowledge point on proactive and reactive change. We know that businesses can change proactively sometimes, and sometimes their change is reactive. This can often be because of the driving and restraining forces, but businesses that wait to see how driving and restraining forces build around them and then respond, we would say that they are acting reactively. Now, being more proactive is the preferred way a business acts. It means they won't be impacted by negative situations because they're going to change prior to this. By taking a proactive approach, this occurs when a business changes in a planned way, and this has occurred before the business is actually affected by the pressures in their environment. So they are essentially looking and thinking and reacting in a proactive way, so they're not actually going to be impacted negatively, and they have the time to plan. In a way, we would say that these businesses are shaping their own destiny. Now, if we want to take this to an nth degree, this is where we're going to talk about adopting Porter's generic strategies. This is where the business plans for the future and thinks about what position they want to position themselves in. This is proactive, and it's called a strategic management, because they're thinking strategically about where they're going to place themselves in their competitive landscape. Now, Michael Porter was the person who came up with these Porter's generic strategies, and he describes how a business, if they do this, can start to acquire a competitive advantage. And all businesses should be trying to achieve a competitive advantages, and he outlines that this is one way that they can. What Porter outlined was that in response to competition and other forces, a business wants to gain a competitive advantage, and he outlined two categories of competitive advantage. One being a business can try and adopt a cost advantage. This is where a business gains a competitive advantage by reducing the costs of their business, because this allows them to operate with larger profit margins than their rivals. So if you can reduce your costs and have higher profit margins, that's going to give you a massive advantage. Or a business can adopt a differentiation advantage. This is where a business gains a competitive advantage not by reducing their costs, but by differentiating their good or service from others in the market. So providing a good or service that is different from others. Now, why do we call this a generic strategy? Because Porter outlines that this can work for any business. If they adopt one of these, they should obtain a competitive advantage. So we're not going to talk about specific industries or really specific examples, because these are generic theoretical advantages that all businesses could try to adopt. Now, before deciding which strategy to implement, cost or differentiation, because as we will talk about later, you shouldn't try and do both, it won't work. Porter outlined that a business must conduct a SWOT analysis. And what do I mean by SWOT analysis? I mean a business should identify their strengths, their weaknesses, try and identify opportunities, and also the threats that they might face. And if they do this, then they should really know where they are going to be able to best succeed. Are they going to be more? Is it going to be better for them to adopt a cost advantage strategy or a differentiation strategy? And they should be, when doing that, analyzing the forces that exist in their industry. They should be analyzing supplier power, buyer power, competitive rivalry, so their competition, threat of substitutions, and threat of new entries. Only once all of these forces have been analyzed can a business make an informed decision on which strategy to adopt. You need to understand your competitors, suppliers, buyers, substitutes, and new entries before you work out, I'm going to adopt a cost strategy or a differentiation strategy. Now, once you have done that, then you are able to adopt one of these strategies. And Porter theory states that there are really 3 generic strategies that can be implemented to achieve a competitive advantage. These being cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Focus consists of cost focus and a differentiation focus. So we'll talk about these in a second, and these are the ways that we will work through. But really, for the purposes of business management VCE, we're going to consider really 2 key approaches: taking a lower cost or differentiation. So we're going to split it this way. We can adopt a cost approach or a differentiation approach. So if a business is going to take a lower cost strategy, this is a strategy that allows a business to achieve a competitive edge because they're going to reduce their production and delivery costs. If you reduce your production or delivery costs, this gives you a competitive advantage, because if you produce things at a lesser price, then you can probably sell your goods at a cheaper price. And examples of this include the Reject Shop, Aldi, and Costco, all of successful businesses that we often associate as having cheap goods and services, and that's because they have a low cost strategy. This will mean that these businesses will get a competitive advantage because they can target the price-conscious consumers, which is many of us, particularly in this environment of high inflation. However, these businesses should not do this in a way that sacrifices their quality. They still need to provide goods of a sufficient quality. And Costco, Aldi, and the Reject Shop do that. So how does a business, if they identify that they're going to do a lower cost strategy, how are they going to do this? What are they going to be thinking about? How can they lower their costs in the operating part? How can they turn their inputs into outputs with the lowest costs? So they might try and minimize labor costs with overseas manufacture or outsourcing, even global outsourcing. They will be adopting lean management production or lean management techniques because they don't want any waste. Waste equals cost. And they might be looking to dismiss employees to reduce their costs. They're going to really need to be using their assets efficiently. They might adopt new technology. Apologies. They might adopt new technology to produce goods and services quicker. They might offer high volumes of standardized goods to mean that they don't have to make lots of wide range of products. If you think about Aldi, they have standardized goods. And they might want to take full control of their supply chain using just-in-time or materials management strategies, because then they can lower the cost throughout the entire supply chain. Now, does adopting a lower cost strategy mean they should be the cheapest in the market? That's something for you to consider. I would say not necessarily, but by adopting a lower cost strategy, it gives them the opportunity to reduce their costs, and that gives them a competitive advantage. Now, when we start to think about, there's 2 views, 2 different types of lower cost strategies. We can adopt cost leadership or cost focus. This will depend on whether the business is going to take a broad approach or a narrow approach. If a business is going to take a cost leadership strategy, this means the business is seeking to become the business with the lowest cost in the industry. They're going to be the leader in costs. Now, if the business is going to take a cost focused strategy, it doesn't mean that they're going to have the lowest cost in the industry. They might try and seek a competitive advantage by having the lowest cost in a particular part of the market. So they're going to be going, we will have the lowest costs in this niche market. So you could still be a supermarket that focused on selling high quality goods to rich people. But if you might take a cost focus where we're going to try and do that at the lowest price possible, so then we can pass that saving on to our market, even if it is a very affluent market. Now, what are the pros and cons of using lowest cost strategy? The business may become more profitable. As we reduce our costs, profit per unit can increase. And if we have this low cost strategy, we might prevent competitors from being able to enter the market or increasing their market share because we're going to be really appealing to our customers. It will allow us to save money, particularly in expanding or developing new lines, and we might be able to make some savings, which allows us to differentiate at later dates. Now, what are some of the weaknesses? Sales might actually fall if we start to adopt this strategy because people might see and perceive low costs as resulting in low quality. There's some interesting studies around wine where when businesses reduced the price of their wine, people perceived it as being less of quality. And this might result in a loss of market share. And this is an approach that others can copy. They can look at how you are lowering your costs and competitors can do that themselves. And if you lower your costs, it means it's going to be quite hard to do any other changes in the future because you've kind of set your future strategy. And this might make it difficult to differentiate. So there are pros or cons, and remembering a business should adopt a SWOT analysis prior to doing this to be confident that this is the best strategy. Because the alternative is to adopt a differentiation strategy. If a business decides that their strengths are being more in line with being innovative and creative than their competitors, they might say that they are going to find a unique point of difference. And this is what we mean by a differentiation strategy. Differentiation strategy refers to placing an emphasis on the difference between the particular product or service that you provide compared to your competitors, particularly attributes that customers find appealing. So this will make hopefully, if we differentiate and find out ways to make our goods different and more appealing, they will become more attractive to customers. And this will result in sales and market share increasing. So if I asked you which brand has the best handbags or which shoe brand is the best, you're all going to have different opinions. But generally, it's because you think that business has differentiated. So Chanel has the best handbags because of their high quality. Nike has the best shoes because they are the most innovative and most comfortable, or maybe the most fashionable. And interestingly, if you think about Nike and Chanel, these are not cheap products. So this is a different strategy. We're not trying to necessarily sell the cheapest good, but we're trying to create a product difference that's going to be appealing, either quality or innovation or variety, anything like that. So differentiation can be created through innovation, new product features, strong customer relations. You might be able to do it with technology and have a patent or warranty. You might have a unique distribution service or even a unique marketing approach which allows you to differentiate your product. What are some examples? If we think about Coles and Woolworths, they are both differentiating in terms of their branding. Coles has often the approach of down, prices are down. They're trying to differentiate with a lower cost strategy. Whereas if we think about Woolworths, they use the fresh food people. They're trying to differentiate via their quality. And I want you to think about how other businesses are trying to differentiate, or maybe which strategy they are taking. As we talked about in the cost strategies, in differentiation, we can take two different approaches. If we are taking a differentiation approach, the business will make their product different or unique or superior in some way that will allow them to have a differentiation ability across the entire market. If we are taking a differentiation focus strategy, this will seek a competitive advantage in a segment of the market. For example, Chanel is not trying to sell to everyone. They are trying to again sell a luxury good and differentiate that way. Now, what is a little bit different? Unlike cost leadership, where only one business could have cost leadership, Porter suggests that many businesses will be able to differentiate in a market because they're all going to come up with different reasons why they are different. And this will mean that customers will view them differently. So I do want you to think about how, for example, Coles and Woolworths are both, in a way, taking a differentiation approach, but customers will view it differently. Again, what are the pros and cons? Differentiation allows us to differentiate in a way that improves a business connection with customers. We can increase loyalty. You're able to charge a premium if you differentiate, which makes you potentially more profitable. And increased loyalty can increase market share, all while not necessarily reducing your cost price, your selling price, so you might be able to have pretty good margins. What are some of the weaknesses? Rival businesses can still copy this differentiated approach, especially if it's not protected by a patent or some other intellectual property protection. Differentiation often has a significant initial cost, research, development, and it might not always be outweigh the benefits, and it might not even be successful, all this investment. And differentiation can be very time consuming. And even if you do find something that customers like, remembering customers change their tastes and preferences consistently. So to recap, differentiation focuses on creating a unique point of difference to gain a competitive advantage. Low-cost strategies focus on having a low-cost production process to gain a competitive advantage. The key bit that I want you to undertake is that it is very, very difficult to achieve both. And businesses don't want to be stuck between, because then they're not necessarily going to have a unique difference, but also not going to be the cheapest. And that's not where customers want to spend their money. Some questions, I encourage you to pause this and think about these questions. But for now, as it's been a relatively long video, I hope that you've understood Porter's generic strategies, in particular the two key approaches that a business may adopt is a proactive change management approach to obtain a competitive advantage, these being lower cost or differentiation.